Hello, it's Kaylin, and I'm starting this video with some pretty paper. And the reason I have paper here is because I'm going to be talking a little bit about art and creativity and that kind of fun stuff. It was my birthday last week, so I got a few things that are related to art, and I wanted to talk a bit more personally in this video because I want to not spend every video I make just going over books that I want to read and book reviews, and all those things are well and good, but I did want to make this channel a little bit more kind of versatile and talk a little bit more about myself. I've been really getting into art recently, and I do have a book haul for you, but I also want to talk about some books that I already have before my birthday, and just about art a little bit because it's something I've been really getting into and interested in lately. And so if you're wondering, these papers here are pulled out of a magazine, and that magazine is called Flow Magazine. And that's this pretty beauty right here. And I got a subscription to this magazine from my mom last week. And that was her birthday present for me. And I love this magazine because if you flip through it, there's all kinds of great images and articles and a lot of colorful pages. I tore out the ones that I loved. Those were kind of dividers, and they're on thicker stock paper. And what I'm going to do, I decided, and this, again, is not really book related, and if you just want to see the haul, you can skip forward. But if not, you are interested in some artsy kind of things, maybe you'll enjoy this. But anyway, I was going to hang these up on my wall and just kind of tape them up there, but I taped two of them up there and they wouldn't stay and they kept falling. So I thought, why don't you just get some cheap frames and frame them and put them on your wall? So I went to the Dollar Tree, and I didn't want to buy expensive frames because I think they didn't really need them. Really, I think the art kind of just pops just enough where you don't really have to have an expensive, pricey, fancy frame behind them. So I got a couple of frames, actually 4 different frames from the dollar store. And I'm going to frame these and hang them up and use them maybe as a backdrop for my videos. And I'm going to put them in my living room. If you want a quick viewing of my living room, I've got some art here. And whoops, a zoom in there. Didn't mean to do that. Here we go. But that is where I have done a few of my films. And I've also filmed in front of my couch over there. So I wanted to I'm going to take that big photo collage thing down and put some of these up. And I have some other personal photos I'm going to put up there. But this is basically my living room. And I'm showing you this in the spirit of showing you a little bit more about myself rather than just talk about the books I like to read. So this was my idea for my living room, is to frame these fun pictures that I received. Thank you, and thanks to my mother who got me this subscription to Flow Magazine. And as you can see, it has articles in it. And it also has things you can pull out, little booklets that give you more fun stuff. These give you some creativity prompts, and some of those are, for example, draw something you've bought, design a label every day for jam, for cleaning agents, for wine, etc. Draw an object the way you think it will look in 50 years. And those are just some fun examples. And I highlighted some of these. I'm a highlighter. I like to mark up books. Not all of them. Mostly the more, if they're like inspirational or self-help, I tend to do that. And speaking of self-help and inspiration, this book I've been reading, The Artist's Way, has been giving me a lot of inspiration, and you can see how much I've highlighted in it. This is a 12-week program, then kind of helps you unlock your creativity and just discover the things you are really good at and the things you really enjoy doing. I am on week 10 of 12, so I've been doing this for a while. I haven't really talked much about this book, but this has been kind of an eye-opener for me in just reminding me that I like to draw and I like to kind of explore that side myself a little bit more. And so I've started drawing, and I've started working a little bit with pen and ink, which I haven't done a lot of, but I want to do more of. And this pen and ink drawing workbook is something I've been working on for a little bit, and it has about 140 pages. I'm on like page 37. But anyway, this gives you activities and exercises in different ink strokes, and it kind of goes from beginner to like more advanced stuff. Just gives you all these different kinds of strokes to work with, and I didn't really know a lot about this, so this was really good, like basic instruction for me, and just in technique and in pen control and in shading and all different things. Gives you kind of like some little quiz type things, but it gets more like advanced as you go, like different shading techniques and different shapes, things like that. So that's what I've been working on, just to try and draw more and see where that takes me, because it's fun and I enjoy doing it. And I'm working on a portrait right now. I can't show you it because it's going to be a gift for somebody. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of show you some of those art books, because that's kind of been taking up some of my energy and time lately, but it's been a really positive thing, and I'm going through a life change right now, and it's been a little bit disorienting, and so that's been helping me. I'm trying to focus kind of on myself a little bit and what I'm interested in and doing more of those enjoyable things. And along with that, I'm actually starting the book haul right now, because those last 3 books that I showed you I've had for a little bit, but these are books that I've either bought with gift cards for my birthday or have been given as gifts. So I'll start with this one because it's kind of on the same lines as the Flow magazine, because it's from the creators of Flow, and obviously it's called A Book That Takes Its Time. And this has stickers and pull-out articles and posters and postcards, things like that. It's a lot of fun. This is really, really, really me kind of thing. I'm not really sure what this is. It's just a long piece of paper. But they're big on paper and colorful images and relaxation and just making your world more creative and personal and just therapeutic and things like that. So this book I thought would be really fun, and I love how you can, like, it's very interactive and you can just pull out anything that you want to. So I'm going to have fun with this, and this is going to help me probably stay open-minded to doing things that I enjoy and things that I'm sort of fairly decent at, meaning drawing. And so I'd like to really get into pen and ink drawing, as I said, and I'd like to get into coloring with ink as well. So I don't know a whole lot about it, but I want to learn. But anyway, that book kind of falls into the creative category. And I have another book that I got called Everyday Matters, and this is by Danny Gregory, and I apologize if it's kind of focusing and unfocusing, but this is by a man who he didn't really draw before until I think later in his life, and he and his wife and son lived in New York City, and his wife was involved in an accident, and she was paralyzed from the waist down. She actually fell under a subway train and became paralyzed. So I think it's a miracle she even survived. But anyway, in order to kind of deal with the this crisis and this tragic, series, or this tragic event, he decided to teach himself to draw, and he apparently has a knack for it, obviously, as you can see. And I just really love his style. And he created this memoir, which is, I guess you could kind of call it a graphic memoir. It's got a lot of words and pictures, but it chronicles his life in New York City, his life with his wife and son. So I thought this would be very interesting. And so he's the author of Creative License as well, which is another just book on his artwork, and just, I think it's kind of a self-help, inspirational, unlocking creativity kind of thing. I think this video is becoming how many times I can say the word creativity. So I will try to use some different word choices. But anyway, this is kind of right up my alley, and I wanted to check it out. And I wanted my sister to read it too, because we tend to read books together, and she was the one who recommended The Artist's Way, so thank you, Lindsay. I'm really enjoying it, and I think this is a book that she might enjoy as well. So along those lines, this next book I'm going to show you is one that I got today. It was still with the gift card, so even though it's not technically my birthday anymore, I still used it with the gift card I got for my birthday. And it's still kind of along those lines of kind of having fun and just kind of unlocking your talents and abilities. And this is called, obviously, the Me Journal, and it asks a bunch of questions, and you just kind of fill it out. It's kind of like one of those guided journals. And so this is not drawing or anything, but I thought this would be fun. Like I said, I'm sort of kind of focusing on myself a little bit and just figuring out where to go in this stage of my life after some changes that I've experienced. And just some questions. I started it a little bit. I can give you some examples. Do you normally finish one book before beginning another? I have no, because I tend to read multiple books at once. Another question: actors you like, actors you dislike. It gives you kind of an either or. Oh, different types of wine. Barbera, or Pinot Blanc, Bordeaux or Pinot Grigio, Cabernet or Pinot Noir. I actually like Cabernet and Pinot Noir, so I'm not sure which I would put for that. But anyway, I thought this would be fun. There's a lot of different kinds of questions in here, and it's just kind of self-discovery, and just I could see myself doing this while watching BookTube and just relaxing. So this is fun. It was on the clearance rack at Barnes & Noble for $7.98, so I think that's a pretty good deal for like over 300 questions on here. So I recommend it. It's fun. And I am going to get into the rest of this book haul, and I'm going to give you the 3 books that were gifted to me. And this first book is Devil in the White City. This is by Erik Larson, and I think you probably are familiar with it because it's been around for a while and it's been talked about a lot. It is about the serial killer. I think his name is H.H. Holmes, and he was running rampant in the Chicago area in 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair. And it's also going to talk about the architect behind the World's Fair. And it's actually about the serial killer also, and how he used the fair to bring victims, and it says to lure his victims to their death. So this is going to be probably really scary and suspenseful, but also very interesting as far as the history of Chicago and the World's Fair. And I think it's ironic that having something like a fair, a World's Fair, which is supposed to be fun and kind of something to bring a community together and lighthearted and everything, and it's going to be a backdrop for some pretty awful bad things. So it's kind of like light and shadow, like in front of you. at once, if that makes any sense. There's a positive and negative kind of all in one. But anyway, yeah, that's Devil in the White City, and it was a National Book Award finalist. And everyone that I've spoken with who have read this book has really loved it, so I hope to get into it too. I'm budding reading this with Paul, and I have talked about Paul before, and we have buddy read books before, and he chose this one, and I've been meaning to read this one for years anyway. So, next two books are also from Paul, and they are H2O, and this is by Virginia Bergen. It's kind of a apocalyptic story about just poisonous rain, I guess. Killer rain, and it's like a virus inside rain, and apparently there's no cure, and it's killed most of the population except a few people, and one of the survivors, Ruby, has to take on a journey to find her father if he's still alive. And so this premise kind of reminds me of Bird Box, just because it's like a few lone survivors and they're trying to make their way, to safety or get away from, whatever this is. And in Bird Box, whatever people saw would end up killing them or make them kill themselves and then kill others. So this kind of reminds me of that. I don't know how similar they are. But anyway, this was another book chosen by Paul. I'm not usually big into like books about like the end of the world, but the whole point of like this buddy read is to kind of get myself to expand my horizons and read books I wouldn't ordinarily read. So while I kind of tend to like books about kind of just kind of the world, the current world, and kind of reality and things that are more tending on the realistic side, I think I should try and read more things that are kind of what if scenarios. So that's what I'm going to read with Paul, and that's H2O, and it should be kind of hopefully a page turner. And the last book I have from him is Asperger's Children, and this is another book that he chose for our buddy read, and it's called Asperger's Children, The Origins of Autism in Nazi Vienna. And this kind of goes into the history of, not really the history of autism, but I guess the naming of autism. And I'm so sorry, this is not focusing right now, but there we go. It goes into the history of Nazi Germany and also Hans Asperger, who actually, I guess, pioneered studies in autism. And along with Hitler, I guess he was sort of in charge of, I guess I'll quote from this description to make it easier. Asperger and his colleagues endeavored to mold certain autistic children, autistic being in quotes, into productive citizens while transferring others they deemed untreatable to Spiegelgrund, one of the Reich's deadliest child-killing centers. So it's kind of disturbing. Basically, when Hitler and other Nazis were sorting people according to, who was ideal, according to race, behavior, religion, and their physical characteristics, their psychological characteristics, I guess they discovered certain people who lacked different social skills and other kind of characteristics that kind of describe autism as we know it today. And so this Asperger, I guess, is credited with kind of discovering what Asperger's syndrome is. That we know today. Sorry for lack of better words. I don't know a whole lot about autism and Asperger's myself. I kind of know the basic traits, but I thought this would be interesting. I don't mean to say that they discovered autism, or that it started with Nazi Germany. I think this is just where they classified it and started discovering the traits of autism. So this should be kind of a good history lesson. And I like books about the Holocaust in general, like survivor stories and things like that, even though they can be really, really sad and difficult to read. But this will be kind of interesting, not only as a history, but also as just sociology, and get to know a little bit more about the history of autism as we know it. So anyway, I have 3 more books to show you, and I'm going to try and do this quick because I don't have a lot of time, I don't think, on my camera, and I've been blabbing for a while now. So these are just books now that I bought with my gift cards. And one of them is You by Caroline Kepnes. This is a thriller about a man obsessed with a woman. He learns all about her and tries to become, I guess, this perfect man to kind of lure her in, but in reality he's a big giant psychopath. And so there's a show now on Lifetime. So this is the show cover. And I haven't seen the show, but this book I hear is really exciting, really good. And he's like really, really, really crazy. So I think this will be kind of just a fun page turner, especially close to Halloween. So, and the second to last book I have is I Must Say by Martin Short. And Martin Short, of course, is a comedian, actor. He's been on Saturday Night Live and SCTV, which I haven't really watched, I don't think, even though I grew up in the 80s, so I think it was kind of maybe back then, maybe in the 70s, I don't know. But anyway, he was on Father of the Bride, Three Amigos. He's hilarious. He plays a character I love called Jiminy Glick, who he's got a lot of makeup on. He is an overweight television host who interviews celebrities, and he's famous for just kind of falling all over the chair and falling out of the chair and not doing enough research on his interview subjects and kind of insulting them along the way. But it's hilarious, and there are a few people who can do, I think, what he does, because I think a lot of it is improvisational. But anyway, I was looking forward to learning more about him and his history in comedy. And so that's Martin Short's book, I Must Say. This final book I have, actually, I think I bought this before my birthday, so I apologize. This is not really a birthday book. But anyway, it's a new book I got, so it's called The Disappearing by Lori Roy. And this was a recommendation from both my mom and my sister. My sister and I are supposed to read this together for a buddy read, but she apparently has already finished it because I guess it's such a page turner. And it's a thriller. It's about a woman who moves back to her hometown in Florida, and I guess there's some history of her family being involved in a school that has a lot of controversy surrounding it, and it's a school for boys that closed down a few years back. And her father apparently committed like horrible crimes to young boys there. And she is going back to this town despite people in the town really not liking her or her family. But she's just gone through a divorce, and she's got 2 young daughters, and she's coming back home. And there's a young girl who has disappeared, and apparently, I think in the synopsis, I only just started this book, I'm like 20 pages into it, I think one of her daughters goes missing, so she's going to have to find out what happened to her and get her back, and also kind of reconcile some ugly parts of her past and her history and her family's history. So that's The Disappearing by Lori Roy, and that is my book haul